And a very good morning to you. It is a big night in the Champions League. We'll talk about all that with Graham Hunter a little bit later on. We're also going to talk about Dublin versus Meath, the rivalry, and also get some interesting takes from Andy McEntee and Darragh MacAuley on the state of the universe. That's all coming up a little bit later on. But as ever, if you want to get involved in today's show, we'd love to hear from you. You can drop us a comment. We're on youtube.com/offtheball. We're also at offtheballAM on Twitter, or you can just tweet us at offtheball on the normal account. Owen is here this morning. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm very well, yeah. You were just complaining off air that your phone is broken.
Yeah. So I dropped it a couple of weeks ago, and it kind of had a little dent in the glass screen in the front. This is a really boring story, by the way. And last night, a little black patch appeared beneath that little crack. And I woke up this morning and that black patch had expanded to cover the entire phone. So you can call me and I'll get your call. And I can probably answer it, but that's probably the only thing I can do because I know exactly where to swipe the thing. But that's it, you know, I'm phoneless. It's there's like this kind of umbilical liquid, a fetal fluid that has the water's broke, basically. The water is broken in my phone, and there isn't another body coming out of it, unfortunately. So there is no positive of the water's breaking.
There's no little baby phone being born.
No, there is no little baby phone being born. It's actually been quite a purifying experience for the last 2 hours not having a smartphone. I haven't looked at Instagram once.
There you go. Well, I wonder if your life is actually going to be much better now, and this is the moment where you realise you don't need a phone.
Maybe I'll go back to block you. You can call me, and if I'm not too busy playing Snake, I'll be able to take your call.
I mean, maybe you've stumbled onto something here. Right, let's move on. Although then you wouldn't be able to watch Off the Ball AM, so what the hell are we talking about? We're all in favour of smartphones right here. Hey, I didn't think that one through today. Coming up on the show, we're going to talk with Graham Hunter around about 10 to 9. I can read the clock, 8:50 even. So whole digital money, that's coming up at 10 to 9 this morning. We'll bring you through our breakfast menu at 10 past 9. Plenty to get through in the newspapers today. We'll get to them in a moment. But Andy McEntee and Darragh MacAuley are going to join us around about 10 past 8 this morning as part of the fundraiser for Seán Cox, which is taking place this weekend. It's Dublin against Meath. And really, if you can't make it along but you'd like to buy a ticket, we'll give you the details on how you can do that in a couple of minutes' time as well. First, newspapers.
OTBAM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie. Championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.
Seamus Coleman is on the back of the Times Ireland edition. A little scraped knee and looking a little forlorn after an own goal last night. But don't worry, it finished 2-2. It was mad scenes at the end of that game where 6 minutes of stoppage time are allowed. And there's a slightly dodgy free kick that Everton win. And the person you think is probably going to end up taking the free kick wanders off into the wall. And suddenly it's like, ooh, what's going to happen here? And Ben Foster left beating the ground because it beats him at the precise point where he's like, oh, the wall will cover this side of the goals and I'll stand here and just save it when you chip it at me. And then straight over his head.
People have started to overthink the defence of free kicks now, it seems. Or maybe Ben Foster just got caught dozing. Like, you think about a couple of the free kicks over the last couple of months we've seen. People have started lying down behind walls. People have started crouching down behind walls. People don't trust their goalkeepers anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's all nonsense, right? The good old days. Do you remember Ron Atkinson was a football manager? Was that well before?
I do recall the famous Manchester United and Aston Villa manager, yes.
He used to put somebody on the goal line and it was like, oh, you can't do that because that's playing everybody on side. It's so stupid. Nobody ever scored a free kick against him. Literally zero concession.
Is that actually a statistic?
Zero concession of free kick calls. There was a season when he did it at Villa where he put somebody on the line. Well, and sometimes it was like, I was going to say sometimes it was little Alan Wright, but it wasn't because he was signed under John Gregory. But anyway, apparently it works. It's just that maybe in the aftermath there was a goal line scramble one time and a goal gets scored and like, oh, you can't do that. Like,
it makes perfect sense because you look at Chicharito's goal at the weekend for West Ham and all he did was just stand level with the wall. And because his body is on the half turn, he will beat everybody in the wall to the rebound if it falls in front of him. So it doesn't matter if he's being played onside or not. Because he's in line, he will still beat them all. And he got to the rebound first, and he smashes to the back of the net. If the opposition had actually put somebody on the line, they might have had a better chance of actually stopping that goal from happening.
The other news there on the back of the Times Ireland edition, Chelsea have banned 4 fans for Sterling abuse. Chelsea have suspended 4 fans for hurting vitriolic abuse at Raheem Sterling. They say that they will not hesitate to ban anyone found to have racially abused the Manchester City player. I mean, obviously, Chelsea didn't ban John Terry for the allegation that he said something along similar lines to what was allegedly said to Raheem Sterling at the weekend. But, you know, I mean, obviously, he was a very important asset for them. And these guys, well, they're just season ticket holders or they're just fans, so.
They didn't also have a floating head in front of them. let's not forget that John Terry, whose head was it? Was it Ashley Cole's head? Somebody's head just miraculously floated in front of John Terry as the money shot came. Like, when it came to lip syncing, there was no obstruction for those 4 lads on Saturday evening. With John Terry, there was a ghost head, and that made things a little bit more complicated.
Henshaw's a doubt for the Six Nations. This is so what seemed like a fairly innocuous initially hamstring strain. Turns out it's much worse than previously feared. So he was initially ruled out of action for up to 6 weeks in early November, but his possible returns were put back another 8 weeks. So that's really devastating for him, because he was in sensational form, and it was like, who's going to play alongside Robbie Henshaw? But now it's like there's a bit of depth in it. So anyway, that's Henshaw out.
It's clearly our most injury-prone position at the moment. Like, Ringrose has had his problems, Chris Farrell has obviously had his problems, Bundy Aki seems to be the only person who's had a clean bill of health since the start of the Six Nations all the way through to the end of the calendar year.
Chris Farrell's definitely the big winner in that, because suddenly he's back, and well, assuming
depending
he's back,
on how big the injury is from the weekend.
Yeah. Why should Raheem Sterling be seen as fair game by newspapers? Daniel Taylor's think piece today. And how do you say it? Dean at the death rescues a point for Everton, named after Dixie, of course. And then there's this, Liverpool sent this out the other day. It was like their press department sent out the picture of, which is a bit mad, isn't it? It's like, here's a mural. We're Liverpool, this means more. Maskeon Club, you know, original stuff. But the club press office sent out the picture of the mural. Not that it was like a bubbling up from fans. Because like, we know Liverpool fans are absolutely mad into the club, and so they must love Jurgen Klopp. You don't really need to tell us. You don't need to go and have a mural painted at the side of a street in Liverpool, do you? It's not a bit.
Unless the whole thing is a fraud. Maybe Anfield isn't a great place to go, and the press department are just so bloody good at it, and they've managed to create this fictitious environment of Anfield, and that is just part of the game.
We're going to clip that bit. We're going to clip that bit and send it out.
I'm not being serious. I'm not being serious. That it is trying too hard. It's like forced fun, isn't it? Trying to force some sort of exposure onto a mural. That's not how murals are supposed to work. Cultural
appropriation, obviously. I mean, you know, they're just stealing. There it is in the front of the Examiner this morning as well. You know, I'd say if you're up the north and you're an old mural painter, you're like, look at Liverpool stealing our murals. You know, we had to go through centuries of oppression and terrorism and all sorts. But no, they can just paint a mural of Jurgen Klopp and it's like on the side of a wall, and like, that's fine.
Well, Liverpool have had to go through decades and decades of league drought until this season, of course, because they're 100% going to win the Premier League.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, 3,000 dead, but whatever. Passion play. Anfield all set for another roller coaster. Play without fear. Poch confident Spurs can pull off shock in Barcelona. Of course he is. And then moving with the times, Jimmy McGuinness on his US soccer adventure and how Dublin will cope with the new rules. So McGuinness had a sit down yesterday. A life less ordinary. The lost soul of Eamon McGee wins Air Sports Book of the Year award. And I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think that like Eamon McGee winning the Sports Book of the Year award is like all grand. Yeah, I had a couple of. I beat the shit out of a couple of women. What's the big deal? That seems to be like you win the book award and it's like, yeah, I wrote about it though, so it's fine now, right? I don't know. I'm uncomfortable with it. Like, I think that we as a country don't really care about fights when they happen within families. But anyway, you pay your money and takes your choice and you buy that book if you want, or you can buy a different book. Percy has King George option if ground is unsuitable in Ireland. So presenting Percy's owner Philip Brownell says serious consideration will be given to stumping up a 10 grand supplementary fee for Kempton's 32 red King George's 6 chase if conditions closer to home are not suitably soft. So that'll be interesting to watch on Stephen's Day. The Irish News. I'll do the Irish News now before I get to the Independent there, yeah. Stick up the Irish News. McGuinness, new hand pass rule is a threat to the Dubs. That's a one take on it. Frampton accuses Warrington of arrogance. So the bubbling future for Carl Frampton and what's going to happen next. Let's wait and see with that one. So just to the Irish Independent. Teenage kicks for Troy. Barca run out for Rising Star. So this is interesting. Troy Parrott was part of the matchday squad at the weekend for the Premier League game. He's obviously the Wunderkind, who's Irish. Probably, you know, not going to go and play for England at any point in the future, Irish. And we're like, oh, that's nice. He got to go to the Premier League match, but he's actually in Barcelona. Tottenham 16-year-old Irish midfielder, Troy Parrott, second left. There he is. Pictured training at the new camp alongside Harry Kane. It's a rondo. on the new camp for like a 60. Put him in the team, I say. Put him right in the team. He's done a rondo in the new camp. Put him in the team. I want him and Obafemi first game. I don't care who's fit or who's not fit. Put him in the team. He's only got 5,000 followers.
Surely the least followed Irish debutant if he does play against Gibraltar.
At Troy Part 9.
But Gibraltar is the perfect game to just send out the future and kind of show us a glimpse of what might be possible. The thing is...
Let's heap our entire country's future onto the sturdy shoulders of a 16 and a 17-year-old and let's not care about it at all. But let's get him in the team.
The great thing about this is we need to get used to an Irish player who's going to be taken and conditioned to actually get used to the idea of being good and being spoken about in a very positive way. Like Maurizio Pochettino in his pre-match press conference yesterday was talking about Kyle Walker-Peters as if he was Lionel Messi himself. He says, well, Kyle Walker-Peters is one of the great talents we have in this club and we've got 3 absolutely outstanding players in that position at full-back. That is how he will probably refer to Troy Parrott once he starts to come into the team. Who knows when it may be, in a couple of months, maybe it could be a year before he actually makes a full debut perhaps. I suspect it might be a bit shorter than that. But the thing is, Maurizio Pochettino tends to take these kids and talk about them as if he's their own son. And that is just the beauty of the way he manages. And we need to get used to that because we don't have it too often in the Ireland setup. We certainly haven't had it in recent years.
Here's what happens. He gets in the team. Pochettino gets a different job. New manager comes in and he's forced to spend a period of time in the wilderness. Yeah, oh God, how grim would that be? But that is the most Spurs response to losing Pochettino.
But at that point, Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, no, it's like so when Tardelli comes in at Inter. Like straight out Robbie Keane. No, who's this guy? No, I need to win games. I need big old-fashioned burly strikers who are, instead of actually working with Robbie Keane. Maybe, Marco, you would have been a better manager if you'd stuck with the 17-year-old Robbie Keane. Lancaster very happy at Leinster, but leaves door open for Farrell. And then Klopp looking for something special in Red's Euro mission. We'll talk about Liverpool a little bit later on with Graham Hunter. Mullinachta miracle shows others that dreams can come true. Controversial. This is the headline of Michael Verney's piece. I mean... As Darren was saying, just a bit of hard work and organisation and sure you can take on the Dubs.
No, that's it. That's the one thing we need to learn from all of this, is that everybody else has just been a failure, especially inter-county teams that are spending so much. Back page of the Herald this morning is we can handle the heat. Van Dijk insists Reds can mount double assault, while new rules could see Dubs turn on style. Interesting how the comments have been construed in different ways for the headline. So Dublin are going to get more stylish because of the new rules, says the back of the Herald. The back of the Irish Daily Mail says new rules will hurt Dublin, says McGuinness, but the main headline is an Irish stew. Lancaster may join Farrell in the Ireland setup. So Stuart Lancaster speaking at the Leinster press conference yesterday in the middle of the Bath doubleheader, saying that he's happy with Leinster, but his ears are always pricked in case there's a job opportunity. He wishes Andy Farrell well, and if in 12 months' time Andy Farrell comes knocking to say, do you want to join the Ireland setup? He's probably going to listen to an offer. Like, that's what I'm reading from what Stuart Lancaster said yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly wasn't look, I'm doing my time here as a head coach or a coach. Next job is going to be fully in charge on my own. He didn't say that.
No, he didn't say that at all.
He was like, hey, there's a good chance here we might get this might work.
Is Farrell and Lancaster a better matchup than Cullen and Lancaster? You would suggest that perhaps because of their background it might be, but I'm not so sure about that. Like, you just don't know about the different skill sets and what exactly
they're completely different things, though.
They are completely different things, and there's no way of actually finding out which would actually be better. But I'm not sure. Like, does Leinster benefit more from the top-down approach from having better coaches in the Ireland setup, and then whoever may take Lancaster's job and Leinster may get a new opportunity? I don't know what the situation may be. The thing is, the way Lancaster's talking about it, no decision is going to be made for another 12 months. So can we say that he's safe, that Bath...
That's not. His contract's up at the end of the season.
Good point. But Farrell will be putting his back team together.
There'll be a decision made on this in the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Do you think so?
Well, so
he said something about the end of next year that Farrell will start putting together his backroom team. I'm sure behind closed doors.
Yeah, and it'll be made public one way or another, because every club in World Rugby so the Australia coaching thing, that's all happening at the moment this week. You just keep an eye on Australia to see if a volcano erupts, and that'll be Michael Cheika going, nah.
What's the domino that Australia can affect?
Maybe Australia ring up Stuart Lancaster and go, here's a 9-month job for you. You can do what you want. You've got full control, and you've got the World Cup in your hands. Hard job to turn down.
Yeah, there's also many reasons why you wouldn't take the job. like moving further and further away from your family. At least you're within one.
But this is for like a very short window.
Just for the World Cup.
Yeah. And look, I'm not saying. I mean,
It'd be a nice holiday, I guess.
I mean, it's a high pressure holiday, but yeah.
It's a very high pressure holiday, but sure. It's only playing second fiddle to rugby league down there, isn't it? Back page of the Sun is New Can Be Heroes, Poch plots greatest European comeback. The back of the Star then this morning is All or Nothing, Klopp up for the big one. And Owen Coleman says the headline with regards to last night's 2-2 draw in the Premier League. Power nap is the back of the Mirror. Klopp's backing a special night at Anfield to help Liverpool meet the challenge. And a couple of the UK back pages. The Daily Telegraph says Messi alert. Spurs face Barcelona Maestro in Nou Camp as Champions League hopes hang by a thread. And Moment of Truth says the back of The Guardian. Tottenham and Liverpool plan to march into Champions League knockouts with victories. And Rob Cross has also spoken to Donald McRae, saying after the World Darts final, it was like I'd hit rock bottom.
Who's Rob Cross?
World Darts champion. Not a real sport in your view, is a real sport in my view. He is a real human, and it's a good human story that he's spoken to Donald McRae about.
I'm not doubting that he's a real human. Line of the day in the newspapers?
It's we might get to that a little bit.
All right, okay, we'll say that one for later on. There is also some breaking news about the extreme lengths that Kerry GAA are going to try and stave off the threat of Aussie rules football. We'll bring you that a little bit later on. Owen has put his journalism hat on. He's got out his notebook, his spiral notebook, and he's got his pen, and he's written down in shorthand the extreme lengths that Kerry GAA are going to keep their clutches, the meaty clutches of the filthy Australian lucre away from their best players. So that's our breakfast menu coming up a little bit later on. We're gonna do it now. Okay, so stay, work, play, Kerry, sports best bromances, Irish begrudgery, Liverpool Olympiacos, and Leinster's second season. So it's not quite Leinster's second season, but certainly it is their first season after being the European champions. Everybody's saying that they've got a target on their backs, and Rory O'Connor's got an interesting theory, really, which he's put forward in the Irish Independent today, that, when you strip Leinster of all the strength and depth that they have to try and, help the other provinces who can't get their own house in order with their academies, then lo and behold, Leinster become a slightly weakened team. Turns out strength and depth is actually important to winning 2 trophies in a season. So, like Rory O'Connor does point out that there's a very good possibility that Leinster are still going to top this pool, and there's a very good possibility they'll still get a home quarter final. But there have been signs of weakness, I guess, when it comes to depth. For example, if they had Jordy Murphy at the weekend, he probably would have been the number 8 instead of Dan Levy. Would Noel Reid have started if he's in a stay was still in the fold? Maybe not. Would Rob Kearney have started? Would Joey Carberry have started at full back, basically, is the question, if he was still around the camp. So all these different options, more headaches for Cullen and Lancaster, but ultimately the options that got them to a position where they were so seemingly invincible last season, and that invincibility, I think it's fair to say, has been a little bit chipped away at this season. I would say they're still very much the strongest team in Europe, but they're far more beatable than you would say they were last season, and we've seen it. We've seen it in Toulouse. We've seen it even at times against Bath this weekend. If Bath had Reece Priestland on the pitch on Saturday, how different the result would it have been? Maybe it wouldn't have been different at all, but we just don't know the answer to that question. So there's little elements of fallibility sneaking in here, and it is just kind of comes back down to this thing that is just so important in rugby more than any other sport, which is if you've got an amazing squad and you can put together a 23 that is unbelievable every single week like Leinster did last season, you're probably going to win a bit of silverware every single year. Except, and here's the point, the new players coming in need time to bed in, and they haven't had that opportunity just yet. So when you think back to, it was 3 seasons ago when Leinster had their disaster in European competition, suffering record defeats home and away, and it was a team full of kids who are now seasoned internationals. Some of the next generation of younger players have to come in, and at least they're coming into a winning environment, whereas at that point, that was just after Sexton had come back and said that the culture had disappeared when he did that interview that time. And I don't know, I think that it's fairly natural that some of these players are going to take a beat as well to get back up to the level that they were at last season, because you can't be the best team in Europe over a sustained period of time, especially in a sport like rugby. The thing is as well, the whole Levy playing at 8 thing sends a message to the likes of Caelan Doris and Max Deegan that this is the standard you need to get to. Just because there's an opportunity there at 8, and maybe positionally you're more accustomed to playing number 8 than Dan Levy is, doesn't mean you're going to automatically go into the starting 15. It is a kick in the ass for them, and not necessarily a bad thing for them to get at this stage of their career, assuming that they respond in the right way. And also, can we potentially maybe get this back row all to play at the same time in the future? Is that a possibility? What happens when Seán O'Brien comes back? Can you have O'Brien, Van der Fleer and Levy in the same team?
But the thing is, you were making the point yesterday that was Levy's performance so bad, or is it actually the start of something that could be a pretty bright future? We forget what age Dan Levy is. Like, there is, like, we can't just say that he can't learn the position of number 8 given the similarity of his usual position. Like, I know he's a little bit older than, say, the Andrew Porter transformation, but the Andrew Porter transformation is a far bigger technical shift than going from a flanker to a number 8.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Brian, I just got kick-started a conversation this week on the use of painkillers in professional sport and off the ball. Former English rugby captain Lewis Moody is on the show later on tonight. Here's what Roy O'Connor had to say.
It is out there and people are talking about it, and again, there is that performance enabling rather than performance enhancing element. There are question marks over whether it's safe or fair on players that they feel like they have to do that. But again, there is a personal responsibility and a personal choice there, but it's whether the clubs are enabling that and whether they're facilitating that.
Because Jack Berger in the Dimmock piece, he used the phrase informed consent. So he was saying he took a painkiller or of some variety every day for the last 3 years of his career, but he said, I understood the dangers, I understood it's not great for me, I would do it again, it was informed consent and it's illegal.
Yeah.
And then the interesting discussion there is, well, should the club doctors allow that? Should they save him from himself?
And that's, you know, it's do no harm, you know, is the team doctor there to help keep the player fit, or is he there to get the player fit to go onto the pitch? And there are all sorts of different issues around that. It's a very interesting topic, full of grey areas and full of, I'm not sure how I feel about it all. I remember reading about Daniel Laggard, the Liverpool footballer, a couple of years ago when he spoke about his struggle with painkillers and the fact that he became very much reliant on them through the last couple of years, and he retired early because he just didn't want to do it anymore. And I'm sure there are players in that boat right now who have experienced that. We can only take the provinces and the organisations at their word that it is much tighter now, that there is much stricter protocols in place. But it's a very tough physical game, very demanding on the body. In Ireland, we play less games than in other nations. There's other people, there's players playing in Champions Cup this weekend who've played 4 tests last month, and that's going to be taking a toll as you go into your 30s and you're near the end and you kind of fit, but you've got a contract, you're chasing a contract, you don't want to give up.
Yeah.
There's pressure coming from every angle, and I guess what we need is and what we want and we hope they're doing is that the medical professionals are there to say no as well as yes.
All right, we'll talk about that again a little bit later on. Make sure you tune in for Lewis Moody. But the eagle-eyed amongst you there will notice that Darragh, MacAuley and Andy McEntee are with us. Gentlemen, you're both very welcome. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
We're here to talk initially about the fundraising effort this week for the Seán Cox Benefit Fund. So there's a game on Sunday. Supportsean.com if you want to go along and support or to donate. But it's a match that I think yourself and Jim Gavin kind of came up with the idea, or somebody approached you guys about it.
Yeah, I suppose, Seán is a club mate of mine. We would have worked together with underage teams over the years, so it seemed like a reasonable idea at the time, to sort of, given the position that I'm in at the moment, that we might try and do something for him. I think everybody's aware of just how bad a situation he's found himself in, so I thought it's probably just one way of trying to help out.
Yeah, it's been sobering really to think about, you go to a match and you don't come home, and it's literally wrong place, wrong time, and it has been life-changing for him obviously, but also for his wife and for his family and for the community in general.
Yeah, I suppose the bottom line is that Seán is going to need lifelong care. This has changed everybody's life in the circle around him, and as you say, to think that you're just going to go to a match and happen to be standing there in the wrong place at the wrong time. If of all the people, Seán is just such a quiet, gentle sort of a guy. He's just found himself in the wrong place.
That's one of the things. We don't really know anything about him because, obviously he's become, unfortunately, famous in the aftermath of this, but we didn't know him as a person at all because, you don't get to know the general run, the cut and thrust of the volunteers and GAA clubs, except within the actual club itself.
Yeah, he was chairman of the club for 3 years, and responsible for a lot of really good things happening in the club. And the year that St Peter's Dunboyne have had this year, they won a senior, won Junior A championship, and won an under-21 championship. I'm not too sure it's happened in Meath before, but Seán would have been responsible for putting a lot of things in place for that to happen.
Yeah, okay. The Dubs, obviously, Dubs and Meath have a famous long-standing rivalry, but when stuff like this happens, it's really important that the GA community gets out and shows the fact that everybody is actually just human at the end of the day, and rivalries don't really matter.
Yeah. I think it just made sense, especially with Andy and Seán has a background from Towers as well, so Jim would have known him, the family would have known him as well. So, yeah. So it's the game definitely makes sense, and hopefully there's a few quid and a bit of awareness raised down. Yeah,
it's early in the year for games to be being played, Andy, but I saw you quoted in the papers this morning as saying that actually games are a good thing. You're not one of those who are complaining about the inter-county season starting so early.
Well, I suppose it depends when your inter-county season finished in the first place. So, ours finished just a little bit prematurely, so we were. I have no complaints. I know Saturday evening wasn't exactly pleasant evening weather-wise, but our lads were glad to get out and have a game.
Yeah. What were the new rules like?
I suppose a sample size of one, probably not a great.
Hang on, this is GA. We're supposed to massively overreact.
Sorry. It was a disgrace. So it was. Hard to tell given the weather conditions. I mean, the rule that concerns me most is the mark inside 40 metres, 45 metres. And given the conditions on Saturday night, you're going to see very little of that.
What is it that concerns you with that in particular?
Well, it becomes a game of Aussie rules. You now have a mark from a kick-out, so you potentially have some of the longer kick-outs in the game, kicking the ball out to maybe 70 yards. It's caught. You have to stand off. Turns around and he kicks it to, a big unit inside. He catches it. Everybody has to stand off and it's kicked over the bar.
Yeah.
Unless he masked the defence.
Which is probably the reason they're introducing this in the first place.
It's a contradiction, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, that's my concern, and probably a little bit likewise with the 3-hand pass rule. Although I think we'll get around that. The area that you probably need the 3-hand pass rule, or you need your hand passes, is closer to goal.
I need a couple of chances on Saturday.
We had, and fellas lost count.
Right.
The last pass would have put us in for a goal opportunity. So my concern would be that you're going to see less scoring chances with the 3-hand pass rule. Yeah. But I think, as I say, that's my biggest concern is the mark inside the 45. I think that'll change the game dramatically.
Did you do much training for that in terms of, I'm not sure what you're doing, Michael, but like it's a very simple thing to look at from the outside looking in, but ultimately this is something you've been playing for 20, 30 years, and it's quite a seismic shift when you get to the very small details of coaching, I'd imagine.
Yeah, look, we're just trying to make fellas aware of the rules as much as anything else. Even on Saturday evening there was confusion as to whether you could take a sideline kick backwards, whether it was inside the 14-yard line or the 21-yard line. And I thought it was a 21. The linesman on my side thought it was the 14. So not great. And neither of us were sure.
Can I just ask though, are you going to hold like a scouting combine to try and find some 7-footers in Meath and have one in midfield and one in the full forward line and away you go?
I've been doing that for a couple of years and I haven't come up with it, but it does change the type of player maybe that you're looking for if you introduce that, and I'd be concerned that it becomes a stop-start game.
Yeah, but you can see, you have some tall guys who are good fielders that if you stick them in the full forward line and boot the ball into them and they catch 4 or 5 a game, that's 4 or 5 points.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a different game then.
It is, but it becomes counter to what the rule was introduced for. So I mean, I can't afford to have somebody like this fella standing in close to the goals and can't afford to say he can't catch the ball. You've got to make sure nobody catches the ball inside, because if they do, the chances are it's to score.
Yeah. You obviously a big basketball fan. Like the rules change in basketball. They've over the years they've re-engineered the game at various stages to make it more attractive and to make it higher scoring and to try and reward certain skill sets. And generally the sport has kind of caught up with the rules and evolved itself. Now maybe we're just going through a bit of a golden period at the moment, so I'm possibly misreading it. But rule changes aren't always bad if they're done with the right intention. What's your take on how these rules have been engineered?
I really haven't put too much thought into them, to be honest. I think like the basketball have kind of tweaked it more so. Like I kind of know because I'm back playing basketball now, so there's a few little rules that I didn't know about, but there's only small little tweaks to kind of change the game to kind of get it a bit faster and get a higher scoring as well. I don't know, they seem to be overhauls in the GA very easily. I don't know. These are kind of now guaranteed for the league, is it? They're like,
well, not quite guaranteed, because the GPA had a phone call and had a meeting with the GAA where they're like, look, it's just for the end of, we'll revisit before the league starts, but it's coming in for the league. That was generally the kind of, they announced that it was for the whole league, and then the GPA had a row with them, and so they said, okay, we'll revisit before the league starts.
7 days before.
Yeah, so what's going to happen at that one? Be like, look, lads, let's just go through the league and see what happens.
And then championship, they debate again, do they?
It can't happen for this year's championship.
Okay.
That's my concern, really. I mean, you really are creating an experiment out of the league.
You're changing. You're coaching for 2 games, 2 separate sports in a way. I mean, they're the same sport, but like, it's an interesting situation.
That's the LGA. Never a dull moment.
Yeah. Interesting is one way of putting it. I don't see the sense of 2 different sets of rules within a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And the league obviously is hugely important to a bunch of counties, particularly the counties in your division at the moment, where it's cutthroat. And if you're going to show real signs of progress, you've got to get that competition week in, week out, because how do you make progress otherwise?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I mean, for 80 or 85% of the teams in the country, the league is the competition that they want to play, and you're guaranteed 7 games. You got to be on top of it. And I feel the way they've gone about this, they're making little of the league. You're making an experiment out of it.
Yeah.
And it's not an experiment for us, for teams, as you say, in our situation. It's hugely important. So I don't know is the answer to suspend the results of the league, and then you're taken away from the relevance of it again. So it's a difficult one.
As in, have the league, but then at the end decide actually that didn't matter. Like,
yeah, I mean, if these rules aren't coming in, you have a false result of who should be up and who should be down.
Yeah, and here's the thing: most of the counties outside of the top ones who are competing for the Ireland decide whether or not the management team should succeed or fail on the basis of their league results. Are we showing progress? So your entire job is at risk on the basis of these rules, and you've got to get it right from the get-go.
Yeah, well, certainly.
Some people's jobs, no, not.
Yeah. I get you. I hear you. I mean, the truth of the matter is, getting out of Division 2 is a large part of our target, and most teams in there would look at it the same way.
Yeah.
So you're going to experiment with the biggest part of your season. It's 7 games. Like, you won 7 games in the championship, you'd be fairly close to the business end of it.
Yeah.
That'll get you probably to an Ireland semi-final or final even.
Yeah, okay. We had Darren Cleary in, who's in the Fianna man yesterday, and I was asking him, so when Mullinlock to win that, are you guys, because he's obviously a dyed-in-the-wool Dublin GAA fan, he was like, yeah, secretly happy when that happened, secretly happy when Vincent's lose, secretly happy when the superpowers lose. What was the atmosphere like when you were seeing the results coming through at the weekend? Were you like, oh, my inter-county teammates suffering at the hands of the... I really feel for them. Or are you like straight on to what's happening?
Fires and Ballygodan, yeah. I feel bad for the lads. It's a tough stage to go out, especially from the inter-county lads' point of view.
Yeah.
Like they really won't get a break now at all. Like they'll be straight back in January, so they'll have a 2-week break at max. Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. I didn't see the match, and I kind of read the reviews going into their stuff, and everyone kind of said it was going to be a whitewash. I didn't. I don't know. Look, it's good. It's good for the GA. Kind of need those results.
Yeah. So you're kind of secretly happy. I feel bad for the lads, but like
burning bonfires.
You've got a new job since last time we were talking to you. You've stopped being a teacher, and you're now working with inner city kids in the North inner city in particular.
Yeah, inner city everything, not just kids. Yeah, so there's, I think, like I didn't know about it before I was kind of get involved with it, but there's a Northeast Inner City initiative. It's a kind of social and economic regeneration of the area. So there's a huge amount of work going into the area. So
what's the geographical area of Northeast Inner City?
So kind of based from it's based at the back of the IFSC, from kind of North Wall over to Five Lamps to Ballybox, Sean McDermott Street, Sheriff Street. So it's a kind of sectioned area that they've kind of really looked at to target, which has kind of been as a kind of bad rep over the last couple of years. But it's all stemmed over this. There was a Mulvey report that was done in 2016, really kind of extensive look at the area as to why is it problematic, what's going on here, and off the back of that there was 54 recommendations of how we can kind of make this better. Then there was a big big group set up, task force set up to kind of target the area. So I've kind of come in under the sports engagement and trying to head up a bit of that. So there's a huge amount of work getting done in the area. A huge amount of people volunteering their time. A huge amount of money and resource getting pumped into the area. So. Yeah, and I'm only in the job 2 months now, but it's been an interesting experience. Yeah.
The decision to leave teaching and to do this, was that straightforward in the end for you, or was it something that you kind of had to think long and hard about?
Yeah, so I wasn't looking to get out of teaching. I was kind of just approached about this, but it kind of encapsulated a lot of the stuff that I do. So I suppose I do a lot of the sports. I kind of run athletic development camps as well. I like working with disadvantaged kids, and it kind of brought a lot of that together. So when they kind of approached me on this, it just made sense. And then I'm seconded as well, so I had the teaching job as well. No, it's going really well. So they've given me a bit of an open kind of slate with it, and basically any way that I can kind of increase activity in the area. So whatever kind of groups that's working with, whether it's working with the kids, and I am working with the schools. I met all the principals there last week, and whether it's working with kind of migrants in the area or addicts or anyway. So I've kind of pretty open brief on it, and they've been willing to kind of back me on whatever I kind of see fit down there. So yeah.
So it's using sport as a medium for social change.
Yeah. So yeah, it's basically you kind of just want to give people that kind of branch to kind of cling on to. It is easy to go down a bad path down there. There's a lot of people coming from backgrounds. Sometimes some of the kids that I'm talking to, they all seem so nice and happy, and then someone tells me their background, and it's crazy stuff going on in their background. The parents aren't around, prison, all different bits and pieces. So I suppose you just want to give these something to kind of cling on to. Like I've kind of used Kelly Harrington as a simple solution for it, of someone who was going down a bad path when she was 15, 16. Someone just said, "Here, would you have a go at this boxing thing?" And she's gone on to be a world champion in the last few weeks. And not everyone has to be a world champion. It's not about that. It's about just giving someone a kind of just a vehicle, a reason to say, no, I actually don't want to hang around with you today. I don't want to do that. I have this sport, and I couldn't care less which sport it is. Like we're pushing the football down there, we're pushing basketball, we're pushing everything down there. But it's just trying to get them involved. So yeah, lots of bits and pieces going down there. And I said with all the kind of resources and effort getting put in now at the moment, it's kind of now or never for that area really to change, and there is change happening now.
Because there is this sort of conflict, and I'm not sure if conflict is the right word, between the idea of more housing and more facilities to actually play football or whatever it may be, to actually, I guess, improve social circumstances. Like we did a piece in Dublin 8 last year and didn't have a single playing piece for thousands, or a playing pitch for thousands and thousands of people. And their point is that there's a construction site right there, and they can build tons more apartments, and it might gloss over the problem of homelessness for a while, but really they're not looking at the bigger picture here, when that row of houses will be will compound the problem of having more people for less playing spaces and more social problems.
Yeah. Look, I think you have to look at a holistic approach to it, and I think, in fairness, with what this NEIC task force that I'm involved in, it is there's 5 different subgroups set up, and they're looking at different target from addiction, from integration in the area. That's a huge problem, to be honest. Is that there's, in this small little area, they've kind of identified 481 services in the area. So from arts and culture to sport to everything, from addiction, homelessness, everything. In a tiny little area, there's 481. And I think that might include like astro pitches and stuff. But it's the fact that a lot of them are kind of overlapping. A lot of people won't share services, so sometimes it's tough to get the people from Sheriff Street over to Ballybock and people to kind of share facilities. So there's kind of this thought. It's not just like, let's just put an astro pitch here, or let's just put housing here. There's kind of like, there is thought behind it, and there's kind of smart plans being developed. So look, it's gone the right direction. It's definitely gone the right direction, and hopefully people can kind of buy into it, and it keeps going. Yeah.
Because we were talking about Mullinocta during the week, and I can't remember, it might have been their captain, it might have been one of the other lads who was talking. It was McGivney. Who was talking about how several people in that team would have left the community if it hadn't been for the fact that they had football. And it's a fairly obvious thing in retrospect when you look back at it. Like we talk so much about how GAA clubs are kind of the glue, or sports teams are the glue for an area to kind of keep people coming back. And I don't know if we fully appreciate that, like, that makes a difference. Like 3 or 4 lads coming home, the guy who's commuting from Leeds, that's like extra economic activity. And not to just view people as economic activity, but it's important because it helps but it's also emotional support. It's also the kind of sense of belonging that people have. And that's why this stuff actually matters a bit. It seems to me anyway, Andy.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could see it in my own club now this year. You know, the amount of people coming home from Australia for a county final and stuff like that. You know, it's I suppose it's incredible, really, what it means to a local community. And you look at Mullinocta and you think, you know, the size of that community and what they've achieved.
Yeah.
Now that takes a little bit of extra effort, you know, given the numbers that they have.
Completely, but it also then it matters when stuff like what happened, the tragedy that happened to Seán Cox, when that happens, that a local community can kind of organise together, and that's maybe something that they don't have at the moment in the other city that's as pronounced or that can rally behind stuff.
Yeah, you can see that. In all fairness, I could see why Michael was seconded into an area like that. I mean, like the Pied Piper out in Ballyboden. I mean, a figure like that can make a huge difference. But yeah, I can understand what he's saying there. That you know, to have an extra meaning, to have something else, some sort of connection to the area and connection to people close by, it's going to make a big difference. I'm sure. Obviously, housing is a very topical issue at the moment, but community spirit is something that's kind of hard to measure. But
it's clearly there. Like, you know, you see the outpouring when the Kelly Harrington homecoming was on, and just even to mention the fact that the sports minister wasn't there. Like, people just want the opportunity to come out and be together and show themselves as a group who aren't represented in the news by the latest bad news story.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like the sense of community, that's nearly cliched at this stage, is immense down there. Like they're all nearly best friends in their little streets, and they all know each other and they all know each other's business. But it's like everyone knows everyone down there, and I'm kind of just slowly starting to integrate myself into them. But it's great down there. And I suppose I think we are kind of trying to drive that. I think particularly the team sports down there. Again, it doesn't bother me with sport you play, like, but you kind of have that kind of, like, we kind of just maybe took it for granted that I have teammates to rely on and to kind of fall back on if things get tough. But I suppose we're trying to push that, particularly in that area, because they are going to come up against tough times, and if they have teammates and stuff that they can rely on, it can kind of make a difference down there big time.
Yeah, there's across America, there's the late night street leagues that they play in basketball, like the midnight stuff.
So that's actually a huge kind of area that we're looked at. So if you kind of look at how sport has kind of made a difference in social change, that'll be the first thing that comes up on Google. There's the huge amount of success they've had with late night leagues, and they did it in football, they did it in basketball. So we've actually hired a particular officer to kind of target the late night league stuff. We actually had QPR come over to us during the week. QPR ran a programme called Sport for Thought, where it wasn't, they tried to integrate the on the ball stuff, on the pitch stuff, into with off the ball class lessons as well. So they target specific kids who are just on the verge of dropping out. Right. And have probably made themselves known to guards or police over the area, and they kind of try and transfer the lessons. So we had the QPR coaches over last week, kind of giving us a kind of talk through about how they kind of transfer the lessons, and it was actually very impressive how they do it, and they've been able to kind of gauge it with over the kind of the following weeks and months, their attendance in schools and how they've kind of gone forward, and in terms of crime rates as well. Like the late night leagues had a huge decrease in crime rates at the same time when it was targeted. So yeah, like that's what we're looking at. Like so, and trying to think outside the box. Like trying not to just kind of do what has been done before. Like
yeah,
so.
And what are the facilities like? Because there's a couple of green spaces where you can see there's the cages and they're actual proper Astro. Like there's only 2 or 3 of them though, are there?
No, like to be honest, we're not short on Astro pitches down there, right, okay. And I probably thought we were beforehand. There's actually the facilities aren't a huge problem. We don't have big green acre sites. Obviously, we have like St Anne's Park and a few up the road, and Alfie Burn, but that's a little bit outside. So we are lacking that. But there is a lot of Astros, a lot of basketball courts, there's a lot of indoor facilities.
So there's actually enough to be, if it's organised properly.
Facilities isn't as much of an issue as I thought it was. Yeah. So before I had got down there actually is kind of little secret Astros everywhere. To be honest. So that's not a big thing. It's kind of getting them utilised. A problem was that we couldn't get things open at the weekend. So like some of the like I'm running a basketball academy now. Like that was in a hall that was never open at the weekend. We have to get it open at the weekend, and now we have 40 kids in there every Saturday morning. So there's kind of little bits like that, little kind of bits of change that can kind of make a difference. Yeah.
How sustainable is it? Like what what's the goal?
Well, that's the whole thing. So. we have to make it sustainable. With everything that we do, we have to try and say, okay, where is the sustainable link with this? That if we walk away in the morning, is this just all going to collapse? Because then it's not worth it. So I suppose we're just trying to be smart. It's all well and good me coming in and coaching the basketball at the moment, but I'm actually looking to, at the moment, I'm in the process of having someone kind of trained up and step into my role as coach at the moment. And he's from the area as well, to kind of take that over. And there's little bits like that and we're always looking to kind of train up coaches in the area and child protection, do all those sort of bits and pieces to put in their hands. So that's everything we do. We kind of look at it with a sustainability point of view.
The 20 by 20 initiative, the tagline is, if she can't see it, she can't be it. The whole issue of role models. Like, I was definitely on the fence up until recently about the whole issue of role models and whether or not they was that important, because like ultimately footballers, sports people, they're good at their sport, they're not necessarily the human being that you want your kids to become, but ultimately role models are important, especially in areas where there haven't been a tradition of role models. So Wes Houlihan making it, Kelly Harrington making it, it is important, right? Yeah, no, big time. And I said that recently, that I took role models for granted, that I had them within my house and within my school, and I just thought that was, yeah, like I kind of just took it for granted. And then I brought a group of kids up. I was playing basketball with them recently, and I remember I was like, there was a little girl and she just couldn't stop laughing. She was like the happiest little kid I've ever seen, and she was enjoying it so much. I was like, you better start coming to my basketball academy at the weekends. And then I said, get your mum to bring you, which you shouldn't say, so I should have said guardian, whatever. Like, turns out mum wasn't around, prison, turns out dad wasn't around, turns out granny was around, prison, and all these different bits and pieces. So I was just taking it for granted, do you know what I mean? That they'd have a kind of stable background. So, no, and those sort of stories are kind of 10 a penny down there. So you have to kind of, yeah, like it's good for people to have something to kind of cling on to, look up to and go, look, like, I don't have to do that. Maybe there's a different road. Like, yeah. One last thing on this: you need volunteers, but you've also got. You said it wasn't just kids. I forgot about the fact that you've got like a gaffer Maz as well. So like, it's trying to get the whole community off the couches to come together to play whatever sport is going. Yeah, I think that's something we did at the start, kind of when we were kind of having meetings and putting together strategies. That it was like, okay, let's focus on the kids. What about the kids? Like, there's always a tendency to look at the next generation. Like, the next generation will be the generation that fixes it. But like, there's a generation there, like that are kind of forgotten about. So it's trying to look at that, at different programs for them. Like the Gaffer Maz, I think everyone just likes it because of its catchy name. But it's a real success for trying to target that tough demographic of kind of women who haven't played sport for 20 years. Yeah. And just try and target them, because it's a kind of holistic thing that if you target them, then, and now we've kind of integrated with the women's GA as well. So we have like the guys on one half of the basketball court and the daughters on the other half of the basketball court, and they're kind of playing together. And then they're like brought in kind of dietitians into that group as well. So then it's like, okay, well, maybe like, let's exercise together, let's eat healthier together, and maybe there's a bit of a kind of sustainable change there. Like, so. Yeah, well, it sounds like it's quite a big project, so best of luck with it. The game this weekend, I know I said rivalry doesn't really matter, but it's still the Dubs at home. The game, you get the opportunity to stick an early marker down for the season. Look, I mean, it's you can tell us. Go on. Yeah. Look, from our point of view, it's a good opportunity to go out and play Dublin. Unfortunately, we haven't had that opportunity for a couple of years now, and you tie it in with the cause. It's definitely something we'll be putting a bit of effort into. Yeah, well, hopefully there'll be a huge crowd. It's at 1:30 throw-in on Sunday. Tickets are still available for sale. SupportSeán.com. It's Meath against Dublin. There's also going to be half-time entertainment as well. Your hopes for next year, notwithstanding the fact that there's so much experimentation to be done in the league? Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think our hopes would be, and our goals, excuse me, would be much the same as they were last year. I mean, you want to get out of Division 2 and you want to reach the Super 8. So, does the game against Tyrone, ultimately the heartbreak is really hard, right? But does that not kind of feed the long winter of desire that every coming team needs? Like a sense of injustice, a sense of, actually, you know what, we're much closer to this now. We're not as far away as we thought. That some of the psychological trauma of the defeat is actually a really good thing in the long run. I think most teams at some stage or another reach a tipping point as to where they go forward from here, or
give it up altogether. I would like to think that the pain of the Tyrone game, I think a good few fellas have sort of twigged. Okay, look, let's, you know, we weren't that far from getting a result that day. Obviously, there's no guarantee what would have happened afterwards, but you know, the stage of development that we're at, a win like that would have meant an awful lot to us. And I think you're right. Well, I hope you're right. I think that pain has probably instilled a little bit of belief and a little bit more determination into lads. But we'll see. We'll see.
Are you a different manager as a result of last season? Are you a better manager? Is that like the type of thing that...
Oh, I'm much calmer.
Are you?
Oh, yeah.
I don't believe you.
I am at the moment. I'd like to think so. I mean, you know, I think everybody has to learn as you go along. You have to look at the areas that maybe didn't work as well as you'd like them to have worked. And I think as a management team, we've all had a decent look at ourselves. And again, a bit like the players, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But I think so.
You're in the middle of the basketball season at the moment. When does the basketball season for you finish? What's that like?
Yeah, I'll see how it goes. I'm back playing National League with Aon at the moment, so I was kind of walking on the team and they were unbeaten. They had 18 games unbeaten, so it was kind of like someone trying to waltz into the Dublin team in August. But you know, it's going well. So the basketball season, we kind of got knocked out of the cup there last weekend. The Ballincollig, they have this super American at the moment. I'll give a shout out Andre Nation. He's one of the best Americans I've seen in the country in a long time. But he single-handedly did us there. But so the cup stuff kind of culminates at the end of January, which won't for us now, and then the season kind of goes on till February, kind of into March. So we'll see how it goes.
And when do you get reintegrated into the Dublin football panel, or how does that work?
I haven't been asked back yet. So
all right, okay, that's it. You serve with the... All right, so is there a possibility you won't be? Is there a possibility that...
I don't know, that's it.
Do you want to play football next year?
Hopefully, yeah.
I have his number.
I'm a long Meath connection somewhere. What you call it? Yeah, no, I'll wait for the phone call, yeah.
Is there off-season stuff though? Like, is there still trips? Do you still all go away together, or does that kind of not happen? The team holiday doesn't happen. Team holiday happens in January for you guys, is it?
No, so we're going at the end of December, so heading off to the sun for a while, yeah.
Very nice. You're keeping this very tight-lipped. What's going on here?
It wouldn't be like the Dublin fellas to keep it tight-lipped, would it?
We're not allowed to talk about football.
Media training. We're heading off to the Caribbean for a while.
Oh, very nice.
So so it kind of has to be done. So in fairness, everyone that puts up with us for the year, between girlfriends and backroom teams and stuff, it kind of keeps people happy for a little while. So
yeah. You're fully fit though. You've had like an unbroken run of 12 months of fitness now. Is that
12 months? I played every single training session last year. Played every single match. Every single basketball match, every single training, so this is as fit as I come.
Yeah, and what's that like? I mean, that must be pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, like season before, I had kind of bits and pieces kind of falling off me all over the place.
Yeah, because it felt like there's wear and tear of a bunch of different careers is something that's going to catch up with athletes at a certain point. And there was a point where you're like, I don't know if automatically you can assume that you're going to get back fit.
Yeah, kind of. Well, I it didn't really worry me, to be honest. I kind of knew I would, but like there is kind of like you can do your best with stretching and yoga and all these different pieces to try and keep yourself right, but someone can come over and just break your leg with a kick or whatever, like so. Yeah. There's no preparing for that. So I've had a good run, and he's having a few thoughts there. He is. So he's
crossed my mind a long time ago.
So it's and I've had a good streak of it at the moment. So yeah, it's great. Body's. I always say this, like everyone wants to get over 30, they have to prove themselves as being fitter than they always were. So, but the body is good.
Form of my life.
Best
shape of my life.
Always, yeah. So no, I'm good to go.
There's one other thing I wanted to ask you, Andy, just when Ger mentioned injustice there last year, and it's one of the topics that was spoken by yourself. Kevin McStay spoke about it, Emma Fitzmaurice spoke about it last year, and we've had big change over the course of the winter, but it's been towards the rules rather than the officiating. Like, in your view, going into 2019, it still seems that there's going to be no added help for GAA officials. I do wonder if that should be the case, that they should be getting a little bit more assistance.
Actually, I agree with you. I kind of commented on that after the game on Saturday night. I mean, there's more and more responsibility being piled on to referees, steps. Was that ball kicked from outside the 45? Was it inside the 45 when he caught it? Has it travelled 20 yards? I think it would be a good idea to give linesmen and umpires just a little bit more power. And like something happened and the game on Saturday evening, and I just asked the linesman, are you entitled to make any comment on that? And he said, no, I'm not.
Right.
And referee was just naturally unsighted.
And he couldn't do anything, the linesman?
No. He said, well, what I consider a free, the referee mightn't consider a free. So, I think you're getting to a stage where...
But he saw it and the referee didn't?
Of course he did, yeah. He was about 5 yards away. The referee was 30 yards away. So, I think it would be a brave enough move, and I think it'd be a smart enough move to say, okay, let's they're all mic'd up as it is. I think it would make sense to give linesmen a little bit more authority.
Do you subscribe to Eamon Fitzmaurice's theory that some linesmen are in competition with referees for the next big job, so they might not want to help them out too much?
I didn't hear that, but I mean, I suppose that's always a possibility. Everybody wants to get the big job. But I mean, look, if you're there as a team, you'd like to think that they're doing the right thing.
Lads, great stuff. Thanks very much for joining us today. If anybody wants tickets or any more information on it, you can check them out, supportsean.com. As I said, a 1:30 throw in Meath against Dublin, and there will also be half-time entertainment. Darren Cleary is in studio next here. In the meantime, let's bring you some more. Rory O'Connor talking about how Bath laid out the template for other teams to beat Leinster in the Heineken Cup of the weekend. Have a look.
But I do think Bath, and Eddie touched on this, I think, in his piece this morning, Bath really did put a template in place for other teams to go at Leinster. It's probably not too different what Racing did in the final as well. If you can slow down their ball, if you can get turnovers, you can get over the ball, if you can win the collisions and stop them getting front football, they become a very ordinary team. And most weeks we're in here waxing lyrical about Leinster, but they are very much human, and they aren't that far ahead of the pack that a good team, and Bath are not that good a team. I think a better team than Bath would have won that game because they did everything to put themselves in a position to win it, but threw away the ball at key occasions. They were undone by, I thought, a very short advantage for the.
Just going to ask. So, is Wilson entitled to think he was still throwing that ball with an advantage
in a loud stadium? I'm not sure he's heard. I'm not sure if he's heard the referee. There was 2 passes before he called advantage over. They hadn't got over the advantage line. I know scrum advantage is shorter than penalty advantage, but I think they were entitled to think they probably had that pass in them. It was probably risky on a scrum advantage, but at the same time, it was very, very short. Yeah. I thought Raynal gave them the benefit of the doubt at a lot of breakdowns. I think once he got over the ball, he was favouring the player over the ball, so they got a lot of penalties off the back of that, albeit Leinster got a crucial one from Gibson Park later on. But that was a key moment in the game, and if I was top back at her, you'd be questioning Matthew Raynal's the length of the advantage there.
Yeah, especially for such a crucial moment.
Yeah, exactly. So Leinster have gone away twice in Europe, and they've struggled both times. Both times they've been beaten a bit at the breakdown. They got an intercept against them in Toulouse, they got one for them in Bath. These are the margins that you're playing at, and they're still in a decent position. Yeah. But there's definitely going to be work done this week. They've got plenty of things to kind of sift through and improve on. I imagine Conan comes into the number 8 jersey this week. Yeah. There's not much wiggle room around centre. There's not... Robbie Henshaw's out until after the first 2 games of the Six Nations, it looks like. So
Mane's long term.
Mane's long term. There is Rory O'Loughlin, but again, he's more like, he's a lighter, strong but light. So there is no ready-made solution. There is Conor O'Brien, this academy kid, who's been really good and is big, but they've been reluctant to put him in for these games.
You can check that whole thing out on Monday Night Rugby. The podcast is available for download now. You can get it on YouTube as well. Oh, and you've asked Michael Darragh MacAuley to stay here for a reason.
Yeah, because last time we had him in, we absolutely savaged Post Malone, and we just can't not have some sort of controversial music chat. So it is that time of the year where everybody's picking their top 5 albums of the year. Michael Darragh says it's like picking favourite children. What have you gone for?
So I narrowed down to my top 11. I don't really know how to push it off that.
Go start from 11.
Okay, who got him first? Reggie Snow got in first with Dear Annie. A bit of Irish content. He's a Belvo boy, and then he kind of doesn't sound like a Belvo boy, but it's a serious album. It's got that Republic of Loose remix with Charlie Brown. It's very good. And next we're gonna go with the Kids See Ghosts, which is the Kid Cudi. It's very rappy here so far. Kid Cudi and Kanye. No, do you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Good shout.
Yeah, good shout. Yeah, thanks.
Wouldn't be my top 11.
Wouldn't be a top. Yeah, you just have 11 Post Malone albums, like. So that made the cut. It's only a 7-songer. It's one of those crazy Kanye jobs, but it's a serious album. Let's Eat Grandma.
Haven't heard that.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing album. I'm all ears. I don't know anything about them. I don't know. I think it might be their first album. So that definitely got in my top 5. Another one of Kanye's, the Pusha T Daytona album.
Yes, #1 for me. Album of the year, right there.
It's only 7 songs, and like some people overdo it with their he just can't, like he's unbelievable actually. In fairness,
I'm actually personally offended it's not higher up, but
higher up. So I haven't put them in order. I'm also the Okay, I'm putting J. Cole as well. This is my last rap album. I'm putting it in. The KOD 1985 is a serious album. Then we have to give a special shout out to Prince's Piano and Microphone. So it's mainly a remix of a live session that he did, but it's unbelievable. Yeah, check that out. Special bit of love for Florence and Drake. It's very commercial, and part of me just didn't want to share the same music opinion as prepubescent and teens, but I'm after going for it. The 1975 album I also liked. Ger and Eoin, you know Ger and Eoin, do you? So he's unbelievable. I saw him in the Olympia there. So he's amazing. He doesn't actually have an album, so it's an EP, so it doesn't technically count. And then my last bit of love is to the Villagers, The Art of Pretending to Swim.
It's a good list. It's a good list. You got to give us your #1. What is the best album on that list?
What was your Spotify list?
The top one, yeah, like they were all on it at some stage. The best album name is Brief Inquiry into Online Relationships. Will I go for...
This is killing him on. This is destroying him inside.
I've got absolutely no sympathy.
Let's... Oh, do you know what, I'm gonna... It's cheating, but it's going to say the Dermot Kennedy EP.
It's not a bad shout. Yeah. Doing big things abroad.
He is.
Signed the flag.
If I could invest in stocks, if he was
invest
a stock,
in Dermot Kennedy,
he's flying.
Nice one. Thanks for that.
There you go now.
But no beer bongs and Bentleys.
No beer bongs and Bentleys. No, I'm going to get loads of abuse online saying you should have picked this and that's crap. But anyway, there you go.
It's all part of the game, isn't it?
Do you know any of the songs on that list, Ger? Be honest.
No,
none.
Not really. No. I mean, look, I'm of a certain age. I'm rediscovering new old music.
You know Prince?
I do, yeah. Well, I missed that.
No, Prince was on it, yeah.
Okay.
Microphones and pianos, is it?
Yeah, piano and microphone.
Piano and microphone. I knew Dermot Kennedy, and after that I was a little bit out of my depth. Yeah.
Can I go now?
You're free.
Class is dismissed.
Yeah, go on. Thanks very much. Darren, what's your first story?
It's Jurgen Klopp, the Liverpool boss, knows failure is not an option tonight. The Reds dropped to 3rd in their Champions League group after defeating their last game to PSG. Liverpool can still go through if they beat Napoli 1-0 or by 2 clear goals. In team news, Sadio Mane is fit to start after coming on as a sub against Bournemouth following a foot injury. Midfielder Adam Lallana is available following a head injury. Dejan Lovren will have a fitness test to see if he can return after 3 games out of action. Tottenham's Champions League fate is in their own grasp tonight. Christian Eriksen's goal 10 minutes from time gave them a 1-0 win at home to Inter in their last outing. Spurs go to the Group B winners Barcelona, needing to at least match whatever Inter do at home to PSV tonight. Tottenham will be without Serge Aurier and Kieran Trippier. Kyle Walker-Peters could start in Europe for the first time. Walker-Peters has played only 13 minutes of Premier League football this season after replacing Aurier in Saturday's 2-0 win at Leicester City. Harry Kane, Christian Eriksen and Eric Lamela are all expected to start that game. Both matches involving the Premier League sides kick off at 8 o'clock. While Gary Neville has given an insight into the toll the abuse has taken on Raheem Sterling, Chelsea have banned 4 fans while alleged racist abuse into the England international is investigated. The Premier League club investigating alongside police to find out exactly what happened to piece together the events of Chelsea's game with Man City. Sterling accused newspapers of fueling racism with their portrayals of young black footballers. Neville worked with him when he served as England coach. He spoke about the effect the abuse had on the 24-year-old at Euro 2016.
Pre-tournament, I don't know if you remember, he was getting absolutely battered going into that tournament, getting so much stick. We were aware of that, obviously, within the coaching staff, that fans were onto him, the media were onto him, asking a lot of questions about him. It then continued into the tournament, into the stadiums, to the point whereby there were those groans and those sort of little boos and little things. And it takes a lot for a player to come and see a coach. And he actually came, I was in the analysis room, and I remember the analyst leaving, and he walked in, and to be fair, just started to download on me, why was this happening? Why was this so personally accepted? That he would get criticism playing for England for his performance levels. He accepted that he would be scrutinised as an England player. He didn't want any special treatment. but that it was so vicious, he felt so targeted, he didn't know what to do about it. I saw what I felt was somebody who has got a great mentality and is tough, but also a level of vulnerability in terms of how does he deal with this, how does he cope with it, how does he come out of it. There was a tonal difference to the actual attacks that he was getting compared to others. But the abuse that he received, particularly in the media, beyond that tournament, and the language that was used against him, I've not seen it before, and I've seen some. I've seen the sort of. I've lived closely with David Beckham, with Wayne Rooney, played in Euro '96 and for a few years with Paul Gascoigne. Seen a lot over the years, but the nastiness.
Yeah, pretty interesting comments there from Gary Neville. Stuart Lancaster has left the door open for talks with Andy Farrell. The Leinster senior coach did not rule out the possibility of joining the Ireland setup after the 2019 Rugby World Cup. Lancaster out of contract with the province at the end of the current season, but is currently in talks about extending the deal. He did reference yesterday the toll it takes on the fact that his family live in England and he commutes to see them. He doesn't see his kids very often, doesn't see his wife very often. He said yesterday, it's up to Andy to build his coaching team. The reality is he needs his coaching team to be ready by January 2020. I've not caught up with him actually since the announcement. I will do so soon, I'm sure, and it will be up to him to shape that. I'll have that conversation with him. The interim rugby chief executive of the Rugby Union in England, Nigel Melvin, last week said Lancaster was among the coaches they were considering for the top job in English rugby. Speaking last week on Off the Ball, Brian O'Driscoll believes Lancaster will stay with Leinster and added that a reunion of the two former England coaches with Ireland would not work.
Yeah, I would say no.
To the England thing anyway.
Well, to the England thing,
Andy Farrell in Ireland?
No, I don't. I think from an Irish perspective, that mightn't be a smart play.
Why?
Because there's baggage that comes with that, because of the column inches that you create, because it didn't work once. Fool me once, shame on you. So I don't know. I just think that's something that isn't really for me isn't. One on the cards. I think he does feel badly scarred by what happened over in England, and that he was thrown under the bus in a major way. And I smile at Melville saying, throwing that bone out for him. He'll be waiting for a text for a while, I'd imagine.
Okay.
But I think Stuart does have a big sense of loyalty to Leinster because they took an opportunity, they took a chance on him.
Yeah.
And it's worked out brilliantly, but he hasn't forgotten that.
Matty Kenny begins his tenure as Dublin senior hurling manager tonight. The boys in blue face Carlow in the opening match for them in the Walsh Cup. Three of his former Cooler players in the team, Sean Moore and Jake Malone and Sean Tracy, all start for throw-in at 7:45. In golf, Leona Maguire is on the cusp of securing a full European Tour card for next season. A runner-up finish at the pre-qualifying tournament in Morocco has helped the Irish golfer advance to the final stage of Q School. Leona posted a fourth round of 67 for a total of 17 under, which secured a second place finish, 6 shots behind Sweden's Linnea Strom. Her sister Lisa Maguire narrowly missed out after she hit 3 bogeys to leave her on 73, 2 shots outside the qualifying mark. There are 116 players vying for 25 tour cards at the moment. Well, a boxer has made history after becoming the first transgender male to fight professionally in the US. American super featherweight Patricio Manuel won his bout against Hugo Orleger on a unanimous judge's decision. Manuel fought in the 2012 US Olympic trials as a woman, but a shoulder injury ended the attempt to make the team for the London Games after just one fight. Manuel began transitioning several months later, and after surgery and hormone treatments, the International Olympic Committee ruled before the 2016 Rio Games that female to male transgender athletes could compete without restriction. That cleared the way for Manuel to convince the Athletic Commission in California to grant him a professional boxing licence.
All right, 5-3. Oh, no, that's not right. You can't text us here. That's going to end up being a text to the breakfast. So on Newstalk, if you want to get in touch with us, you can drop us a comment on the YouTube stream, youtube.com/offtheball, or of course you can always tweet us at offtheball.am. It's a big night in the Champions League tonight with some tasty fixtures. We're going to get to those and preview them with Graham in just a minute. Sports best bromances, though. We've been asking about this, right? Before we get to the suggestions later on. The Dwayne Wade LeBron is basically, they fell in love with the dream team at the Olympics and then went off and conquered the world in Miami. That's why he took his talents to South Beach.
Yeah, precisely. Back-to-back titles in the South Beach, the two of them together, alongside Chris Bosh, the three amigos. But basically, two amigos were better than three amigos, and it was Wade and LeBron. We can show you a picture of them embracing last night at the Staples Center after the Lakers beat Miami Heat. It's the last time they'll ever share a court together. Dwayne Wade is retiring at the end of the year. And we were just asking viewers and listeners to suggest any better bromances that are out there. I kind of off the ball account myself, I suggested Rashford and Lingard, I suggested Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas, and personally I think Colin Cooper and Kieran Donaghy is the best sporting bromance out there. But Kieran Donaghy's been in touch to say Gooch never hugged me like that after a club game. So I think that's fair enough. Michael Carlson, friend of the show, our NFL contributor, has been in touch as well with, it's someone that I'm quite aware of, but he says Fritz Peterson and Mike Kikic of the New York Yankees swapped wives. So that is quite the bromance as well. So keep your suggestions coming in.
At the same time?
I'll reply off the account. Or Mike, if you're watching, just let us know. Let us know if they were doing that at the same time.
Yeah, give us your best bromances. I mean, like, there's, you know, like Beardsley and Lineker, is that a bromance because they had an amazing World Cup in '86 together? Is this?
No,
like,
it's all about the relationship.
Well, then it has to be the three amigos in the 1994 World Cup. Gary Kelly, Phil Babb, and Jason McAteer.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Robbie and Duffer.
But it didn't endure.
Okay, you get extra points for endurance. No question about it.
I think it has to endure otherwise, right?
Well, to be a better bromance.
Robbie and Duffer, because of that photograph when France get knocked out of the World Cup, that's that proves to me it endured.
Yeah,
at least long enough.
Mates having the crack.
They were at least on a big enough of a bender that they were watching the game together to go out on the street and have their picture taken, looking completely out of it to celebrate France going out of the World Cup.
Yeah,
it was a couple of months after. It was the 2010 World Cup, wasn't it?
2010, yeah.
But that when the picture's taken, it's not like 4 years later. It's not like every time France get knocked out of the World Cup they recreate that.
That would actually be great. That would be a better photo.
In my head, there's a fag in one of their hands, but I don't think there is.
I think it's a remote
can,
or a can. Yeah,
it's definitely a beer can.
They're outside the front of a house.
Yeah. Rooney and Rio Ferdinand as well. Wayne Rooney. Rio, do you need picking up, pal?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Eric Dyer in Deli Ali says...
hang on, sorry, I'm burying the lead. Sorry, I totally forgot about this. You had your ass handed to you by Jamie Watt. Oh, sorry, there was a robust debate on Twitter yesterday about this.
I hate to walk out, but I have to walk out.
Oh, balls. I can't believe I missed the
That's a great timing.
We'll come back later and we'll do this a little bit later on. I'm not going to ruin this right
Get
now.
out. See you later.
Darren's coming back a little bit later on to talk about this. In a fit of pique, he stormed off and the mics are still live. So let's move on. Okay, so we should move on to the Champions League, right? We can do that right now, yeah. So a couple of big games tonight. You might have heard about this. Liverpool against Napoli is obviously one of them. There's also a big game at the Nou Camp where it's Barcelona against Spurs. Graham Hunter is on the line for us this morning. Graham, good morning to you.
Hi, Ger.
So the Nou Camp first, right? Pochettino says it's possible. Of course it's possible, but is it really possible? What do you think?
Look, I think if Girona came to the stadium and got a draw, then Spurs are eminently capable of matching that. First of all, let's look at Barca's team, Chair, because there's no question that the way in which Barcelona have been defending this season would lend itself to a good Harry Kane night. Is he going to be up against PK? Possibly not. Will the defence, which is obviously a little bit cobbled together, they're missing so many players, Spurs, are they going to be facing another bromance, Suarez and Messi? No, I think Suarez will be rested. There'll be changes in midfield. Probably Rakitic won't play. I think there's a reasonable chance that the Dutch backup keeper, Sillissen, replaces Stegen. But on top of all that, I'm going to tell you that it's true that Valverde and Messi, coach, best player, will go to this game looking to win. They won't be doing any favours to anybody. They will definitely try and beat Spurs. Where the debate lies is if you change this Barca team, if you take some of the quality out, are the backup players ready to beat Pochettino's guys? So I would say it's going to be a more even playing field than you would have expected.
Yeah, I'm curious. In previous seasons, obviously, when Barcelona have been already through, sometimes these performances end up being routine 4 or 5-0 wins where they're just celebrating and it's like a very relaxed, good crack kind of performance where they take their time, they play good football and it's all rosy for them. Then there are other times when it's not that they phone it in, but like it's natural that they have already qualified. There's no first or second seeding at risk. It's a risk-free environment for them, and they do have a long, hard season ahead of themselves. So I'm not sure, but I can't off the top of my head recall. There have been some times when they've lost some of these games where it's been an unexpected result from their perspective.
Look, definitely Shakhtar Donetsk would be one. There are group games where they've played nothing but kids in the 6th match. Your memory's right. It's about 27, 28 Champions League games since they lost at the Camp Nou. And beyond that, although I'm proposing that it won't be the top 11, and it won't be tonight, what you have to bear in mind is that this is a club with a rock-hard mentality, the type of mentality that Spurs are still trying to breed. I'm not saying Messi wins this on his own, but all of you there know that if Messi has the kind of night against Spurs that he did against Espanyol, say, or against PSV, then Spurs lose. It's as simple as that. He's that good. He's that in form. This tournament matters so much to him. This is their number one priority by a long way. I haven't heard anybody at the club, Messi included, speak about the Champions League in this way since they won the treble in 2015. And therefore, that point about dialing it in, Barca, when they're beaten, they're usually beaten by a side that's physically stronger than them, fitter than them, and plays at a higher rate. And it's usually in March or April. Right now, they don't know how to take their foot off the pedal. They will play to win. If it clicks with Messi, and it depends how Valverde replaces Suarez, it's likely, but not guaranteed, that up front you'll have Coutinho shuttling between midfield and the left, and Dembele on the right with Messi, false 9. It's not as strong without Suarez. That partnership is brilliant. Suarez, in fact, is the best partner on the pitch Messi's ever had. So, Ger, what Spurs have got is an opportunity to try and take advantage of the quality absences. But they must treat this, they must believe that Barca's going into it as if it were a cup final, because that's the attitude you're going to get from the Spanish champions, guaranteed.
Graham, this is the first time we've had you on since Pele made those remarks about Messi last week regarding being a player that he's got one skill and can't head the ball, which is kind of unusual given he's been pretty high in terms of praising him in the past. Is that the sort of stuff that traditionally gets to Lionel Messi, especially if it's coming from someone like Pele?
He is he's almost immune to hearing that kind of stuff. He doesn't involve himself in the media, social media. He's not one of these guys who feeds off that deliberately, finds people putting him down and uses it as a stimulus. He's an odd beast in that I've never met a footballer exactly like him, never mind talent, before in my career. When it reaches him, though, yeah, if derogatory words like that reach him, then it can be an extra stimulus. But is he the type of guy that I could guarantee you knows about it? And does he have the teammates around him? Because you all know, in all sports, a dressing room can be, if not a cruel place, a place where teammates will deliberately seed that into somebody's ear and say, look what this guy or this woman's been saying about you. That's not the teammates he's got around him. The one that probably stung more than Pelé, and he fully knows about it, is the way in which fellow pros or journalists categorised him as 5th best in the Ballon d'Or. He doesn't live to win that award, but he knows where he's at in the food chain in football, and it's not 5th. And the combination of him having had a poor World Cup in his country, not having won the Champions League last season, being determined to win it, being captain, being in form, being happy, means that we're in the middle of a vintage season, a vintage year too, in that nobody scored more goals this year. Nobody's created more assists. Nobody scored more free kick goals this year. Spurs are in danger. But had Pele not said these inane, stupid, regrettable words, you'd be getting this pretty much the same version of Leo Messi tonight. That's a fact.
Fair play. Graham, we'll let you go. Just one quick question about the Liverpool-Napoli game. What do you think is actually going to happen here?
I genuinely believe that Liverpool have got the know-how, the football. I guess some people who aren't Liverpool fans might be rejecting the whole big night at Anfield idea, but it matters. It's not as if Napoli don't play in torrid atmospheres in other places. But I think that's one step forward for Liverpool. Anfield will try and pull them over the line. Secondly, I genuinely believe that although Napoli are well coached, very quick on the break, technically excellent, I think Liverpool are better, and I think that they'll show it. And also I think the motivation of putting right what they feel the wrongs of the Kiev final. I spent time with Milner a couple of weeks ago. He was talking passionately at Melwood about the idea of going one step further, of erasing the feeling of hurt is the right word that he used from Kiev. And again, that's not strategy, that's not talent, that's another factor that might get them over the line. But I genuinely think that on form, they'll be able to defend and break against Napoli and win. I think it's a Liverpool victory.
I'm literally James Milner's biggest fan and have been for a long time, basically since he was at Villa, and realised exactly the impact that he could have on matches, on the culture, on the people around him. And it strikes me, now that you've mentioned it, he's clearly manager material. Is he interested in coaching? Is he interested in management? Is that something that came up in your conversation?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, and he is still determined to play for a very long time. If I had my bet, I think that Liverpool's offer to him will be tempting to stay. He's already, his ears are ringing with people saying, don't you want to go back to Leeds? Look at how Bielsa's got them playing. Wouldn't that be a perfect end to your career? So the coaching idea is definitely within his framework. But the two things that stand out, three things. One, he told me that he's absolutely loving everything about his football career. Not just the playing, not just the wages, not just the possibility of trophies. He's one of these guys that thrives. The day we saw him, it was brutally cold and windy. They were doing a double session and he was loving it. Lapping training up. That's a key factor, you know. And when anybody at the top level says, oh, I really don't fancy this pre-season, or I'm not going out there that rainy Tuesday afternoon to train, that's not James Milner. Secondly, I think he's still playing very, very well. And thirdly, the hunger to keep on playing, to keep on performing is definitely still there. So he believes he's got, we didn't put a figure on it, but his appetite for remaining at the top in football as a player talks about another 4 or 5 years. So his decision about coaching will come in due course. But from what we talked about, from his understanding of a group mentality, as in leading a group of players, his understanding of football, it's all there. I think it will happen, as you predicted. But I still think, Ger, honestly, it's a long way off.
Yeah, Graham, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us. Enjoy the game this evening. If I had to ask you, would you know what age James Milner is off the top of your head?
34.
He is 32.
32.
He's 33 in like 3 weeks. But I would have said he was like 34 turning 35 instead of 32 turning 33. And it's a significant difference at this age. Like, with the one caveat that he's been playing professional football since he was 15, basically. So,
yeah,
more years of running around, doing the training stuff than, you know, resting the way kids do.
Yeah, he shouldn't be near his peak at the moment, but it seems that he's still clinging on to that period in his career.
Yeah.
Stephen Hunt was waxing lyrical about him as well in the Sunday Independent at the weekend, so you may not be his biggest fan.
Totally. Well, certainly he can. I'm driving that bandwagon and have been.
You should get a James Milner t-shirt and wear it on the show someday.
For decades. Like, there's a case to be made that in terms of wresting every bit of talent out of your career, James Milner has had one of the best football careers in the history of the world. To be as effective as he's been over such a long period of time in so many different roles, everywhere he's been, and from making your debut, like at that time the youngest player in the Premier League history, is a sensational achievement.
But it's not just that he's squeezing the end of his career out. He's playing at a higher level now than he ever played at.
Yeah.
At that Manchester City team he played in, obviously, is the argument you could make. But you would say this Liverpool team is playing at a higher level, like Champions League final last year, potentially going toe-to-toe with a far better Manchester City team down the line here this year in the Premier League. And who knows what they might do in Europe after tonight, because I think they're going to go through tonight. I think there's hallmarks of 2004 about the build-up here. Jamie Carragher's been writing about it in the newspaper this morning. I think Liverpool are going through.
Yeah, I do as well. I mean, the whole moot point about whether or not they'd be happy enough if they end up in the Europa League, and if they, not that they'd be happy enough, but that if they get into the Europa League, that they have to not put a team in, basically put the kids out, play them in every game. So,
I was looking at the 2004 game, Liverpool against Olympiacos.
Yeah.
So this is what everybody's comparing it to this morning. And I think it's just, we'll bring back up the breakfast menu here. We've done bromances, we've done second season syndrome. So we'll get into Liverpool and Olympiacos here. 2004, as I say, the season Liverpool win the Premier League, or win the Champions League, I should say, Istanbul and all that. So who is the one single reason?
Olympiacos is the
Rivaldo team.
Steven Gerrard, you beauty.
Steven Gerrard, you beauty. Exactly. What a hit. Andy Gray. Watching it this morning. It's pretty good commentary. I was just about to ask, who is the single most important figure behind Liverpool surviving and winning the Champions League that season? And, you know, it's very hard to make an argument that it's not Steven Gerrard, but I give you one other name. Florent Cinema Pongol.
Flopo.
I think Steven Gerrard wouldn't be a Liverpool player beyond January 2005. Liverpool certainly wouldn't have got out of the group stages of the Champions League that season were it not for Flopo.
What did he do?
Flopo came on and was sensational that evening against Olympiacos.
Was he?
He was absolutely sensational. So he does really well for the Mellor goal. He scores with like one of his first touches when he comes on. They needed, obviously, that's why the hallmarks are so parallel to tonight, that they needed to win by 2 clear goals. Steven Gerrard's goal wouldn't have mattered were it not for Flopo's goal. Mellor wouldn't have scored a goal.
This is the home leg.
This is when they beat Olympiacos 3-1.
Right. The Gerrard goal is the 2-2 draw, right?
No.
Is it not?
No. Liverpool beat Olympiacos 3-1 on the last evening of the Champions League group stages in 2004.
Fair point. Yes, okay.
And after 24 minutes, they take off Jimmy Traore and they bring on Cinema Pongol. And he changes the face of Liverpool football forever, because Jamie Carragher has said, Steven Gerrard himself has said, that he was going to go to Chelsea if they didn't qualify for the knockout stages that season.
I mean, he says that, but then they would have shown up at his house and said, "You're not leaving," like they did to both him and to Wayne Rooney, and it was like, okay, not leaving.
Do you think Steven Gerrard would just settle for that?
I think that if they call to your house and Liverpool offer you the same amount of money, you're like, okay.
But you had a chance of actually winning things with Chelsea. Remember, this was when Chelsea were putting together a team that were going to win the Champions League any season now. Of course, it did take them another 8 years.
In the midst of that, he's talking about during the group stages of the Champions League, and Gerrard has a comment at a press conference. It was like, you know, we don't really have a hope of winning this competition. Or there was something along the lines that was suggested that, oh, we're building for the future here, we're getting experience for the tournament. And Benitez was like, well, he needs to shut up. We're in this competition to win it. And everyone was like, come on, they're not going to win the Champions League. I mean, they shouldn't have. A couple of times. Should have been knocked out of that tournament.
Yeah, like, sometimes it's just...
everywhere, pretty much at every step of the way, but...
you're saying it's a fluke, Ger. Is that what you're trying to say this morning?
No, I'm saying the tension between Gerrard and Benitez was pretty interesting that season.
It was.
And Steven Gerrard did not believe that they were going to be able to win it.
No, well, clearly he had his move lined up to go to Chelsea. Let's move on to Irish begrudgery, because it's in the papers everywhere this morning around Jim McGuinness. Jim McGuinness saying that people are waiting for the day to arrive that they see him fail. He's, of course, going over to North Carolina to train in America, and people want to see the GAA guy fall. Do you agree with this? Do you think that there's people in this country of note who might want to see him fail?
What are you talking about of note, people of note? What do you mean?
I don't know. You know, Irish begrudgers is what I'm trying to say.
I don't think that, there are 100% Irish begrudgers who want Jim McGuinness to fail. I think that that's separate from the people who think that he might not succeed because he hasn't got the experience.
So
that's what I'm saying.
They're making a calculation.
You're saying Kevin Kilban. That's what you're saying.
Kevin Kilban. What's he had to say about Jim McGuinness?
I have no idea.
I don't know how you brought his name into the mix.
You were. I hope, Kevin, you see what young O'Shea has done here. This is the type of stuff that I think Andy Lees called it, his mouth is writing checks his body can't cash.
His ass can't cash, yeah.
Ass can't cash.
Yeah, that's a pretty terrifying line, to be quite honest with you. So I'm not going to write any more checks, but separately to...
You've done the same thing here. You found Kevin Kilban under a Jim McGuinness shaped bus.
You literally mentioned his name.
You obviously were breadcrumbing it. And
no,
I was just like...
I was saying that there are people in Ireland who want to see Jim McGuinness fail.
High profile people, you said.
There are potentially other high profile people who want to see Jim McGuinness fail.
Name names there on.
I'm not going to name names.
Go on, you just named Kevin Kilban.
I'm not going to write any more checks.
He's never really coached a team. He'll have to learn very quickly. There are a lot of managers in better position to get the job. That was him being linked with the Galway United job months and months ago. And look, here's the thing. He's not
being a begrudger.
Not at all.
He's just giving a take.
Yeah.
I'm saying separately to that,
there are absolutely begrudges, but I don't think anybody can begrudge him going away to Carolina. It's not even the MLS. These are the hard yards. This is the bit where you go and you risk everything. And I have endless admiration for what Jim McGuinness is doing at this point, where he could easily have just taken a couple of cushy GAA jobs, gone and replicated exactly what he's done before. And how many Irish people do that? How many are like, yeah, I've been successful with this one thing, and I'm going to play that trick out again and again and again and again. And at the end of my life, I'd be like, yeah, that was pretty comfortable. I reached like the big fish, small pond, absolutely perfect. But he's looked at the biggest pond in world sport, which is football management, and gone, yeah, you know what? I can be competitive in this, and I can learn and learn and learn. And he's gone to China and taken a job which is the very definition of off Broadway, and has come back and learned from that. And let's see how he does. I really, really hope he's successful.
He said in his interviews this morning that going back to Donegal or taking another GAA job would have been just as high risk. Fair play to him for saying that, because it's not. At the same time, going time and being the Messiah, the only man who's beaten Jim Gavin team in the last few years in Championship football, comes with its own set of pressures. You suddenly set a very high bar for yourself. If you go back to Donegal, they suddenly expect All Irelands. And
yeah.
Who knows if they're in a position to actually do that? And it's not only against Donegal, it's just due to the fact that Dublin have opened up this massive gap.
Sure, but if he went back to Donegal, he could literally be the Donegal manager for 10 years and almost nothing. Like, he would need to get absolutely hammered out the gate 4 years in a row before they would go, maybe you've had your chance. Like, because he delivered it once, there will be this kind of long-term residual, okay, you can keep that job now. That's my take. It's possible that it's wrong, but I actually really firmly believe that going to Carolina to coach in is it the second tier? Is it actually the second tier? Is it the third tier? It's like, it's definitely not the top tier, is the hard yards where, the money won't be spectacular. The ask for your family is like, can we go away? And Carolina, the climate's very nice. It's a nice part of the world to live in. It's got that...
great golf courses.
Atlantic coast. Pretty beautiful.
Yeah, it's not bad. So there are perks to the job.
Is it Charlotte? Is that where the team is? Is it Charlotte?
It's literally the only city I know in North Carolina, so...
Charlotte,
let's go with that.
Charlotte inland. Well, so it has like these kind of keys that are it's supposed to be astonishingly nice holiday resorts that nobody ever hears about in Ireland, because like, oh, Myrtle Beach is Carolina. Wow. You've heard of Charleston? The thing you dance?
Oh yeah, I've heard of Charleston, and I've heard of white supremacy.
Have you?
Yeah, that was where the Unite the Right movement took place.
Oh wow!
I remember. So I have heard of two cities actually in North Carolina. Didn't know that. I thought that was in a different part of that country.
Charleston, South Carolina.
Well, there you go. So you got that one wrong, Ger.
I did, yeah. So is Myrtle Beach. There's like a dotted line there. So there is a Jacksonville. That's not the Jacksonville you know and love. Greensboro, North Carolina.
I'm really enjoying this. Just you listing off
Fayetteville,
towns in
Knoxville. No, that's Knoxville, Tennessee. Where's the Tennessee border there? There you go.
You done with listing off North Carolina cities?
Yeah.
Because there's one other story we wanted to get to on Breakfast Menu this morning. It's this document that we'd heard about. There's this document we'd heard about a couple of weeks ago called Stay, Play and Work in Kerry. And it's been brought into the public sphere now. It's on the record now because it's been spoken about by their chairman, Tim Murphy. So there's been a task force set up, headed up by Diarmuid O'Shea, which published this document called Stay, Play and Work in Kerry, which, as the title suggests, it's basically there to convince players not to go to Australia. So Tim Murphy, the chairman, has said that the committee is going to continue in their endeavours to ensure that all other players considering a move are given the benefit of choosing an attractive alternative to remain here at home. This is the cover of it. David Clifford appearing on it, and we can open the booklet to show you one of the paragraphs inside, which looks like this. During the course of our work, we sought expert advice from local and regional leaders in the field of, I presume, keeping people at home. The following gave us worthwhile and insightful presentations to help our committee work effectively and promptly, for which we are grateful, etc., etc. But basically, it says we have compiled this detailed information booklet with a view to inform club and county players of all training, upskilling and educational courses available to them within the county, provide players with access to job application services, and notify players of employment opportunities. Nothing wrong with notifying players of employment opportunities or showing them the options at their disposal. There's nothing about this that's telling them you have to stay at home, of course. It's just giving them the option. And sometimes an option is a good thing.
Is this just something that they've decided to sit down in booklet for him?
Because David Clifford was very bloody close to leaving. That is why this is, and Stefan O'Cunbar has left.
Why do you need a book? Well, I mean,
well, it's a suite of services. It's like it sits there on your tabletop, and you're like, oh, phone ringing from the Geelong head coach.
It's for the Maz, though, isn't it? This is really for the Maz to go, here, look.
It's a prospectus you bring home in your school bag.
Yeah, but you don't read it. There's no teenager in the world who reads that stuff, really.
I read a couple of prospectuses cover to cover.
I mean, you weren't a supremely gifted athlete who might be considered.
That's a very good point. I did forget about that key part of information right there.
You're like, this might be important to me, but these are like supremely gifted athletes who are going to, coast through school and life because, hey, they're jocks.
Yeah, I do wonder if, like...
Did they not make a video? I mean, I think we should put together what the video would look like. I think, hey, I mean, that would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's...
Gooch in the bank. And Maurice Fitz doing a little bit of auctioneering.
Yeah.
There's a range of...
and then kind of a Skype line to Mark O'Connor having a terrible time in Australia saying, oh, it's really bad down here.
It's all fuzzy. The weather's really bad.
Yeah, the Skype is even worse.
The potatoes are crap.
Yeah, so let's see. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the next couple of years. If the booklet is going to be like Kerry's version of the Blue Book in terms of keeping people in tow. That's very different, though, obviously.
What do you think of this? Like, legitimately, what do you think of it? Necessary fight back against those rampaging hordes of Australians offering filthy lucre to our young athletes, trying to waylay them with a life of sunshine, professional sport, and riches beyond their wildest dreams.
I do think playing for Kerry is a huge privilege for all those people, and they will have success. So I don't feel as queasy about it as if it was from somewhere else, if you know what I'm trying to say. That the price of actually being a GA player for Kerry actually isn't that much. So what you get back in return is actually quite good. You get a pretty high profile, you probably get work off the back of it. It's not a nice place to be an inter-county footballer for. I do think, though, the prioritisation of where your life is at in terms of is this actually what I want to be doing, and do I put my education and my job on the back burner to satisfy me staying in Kerry or whatever that may be. I'm not so sure about that.
Is this an attempt to address that, though, and say, look, there are all these actual options open to you. We're not just going to put you in a job where you're selling stuff even if you can't sell?
Well, that's the thing. I would presume so. I would say that there is a very strong argument to be made that you could get just as good an education in IT Tralee as you can in a number of other institutions around Munster, for example, in certain areas. Like David Clifford obviously did that over the last year or so. So I think there's certainly truth in that sometimes the grass is greener on the other side, and you got to get to a bigger place to do bigger things is what the theory sometimes is.
And at the same time, though, you've got to go out and experience life. You can't just be living in the 2 square miles of Fireys. Is that where you're from?
Yeah, but I'm here.
Exactly. There you go. And so should all the young Kerry lads to get out and
stay and play for Kerry. We need an All-Ireland soon.
All right, Darren Cleary's back in studio with us next to defend his own honour. A clip here from our Sunday paper review. You can watch it back on YouTube, or you can get the podcast wherever you get your pods. This week, Cliona Foley and Declan Lynch join Joe in studio.
Damien Duff said a few weeks ago about, how much work, is now acceptable to be doing with the under-15s or the under-13s, whatever it was. The intro is just brilliantly written. Should we ruin it on people? Would it be a spoiler if you ruin it on people?
Ruin it at this stage.
Well, anyway, so he says every Tuesday morning is the same in Wolves. Players gather, they're in the training ground at 8:30. They get, get the GPSs on, they get all this stuff done. They get their schedules to do all that. They do S&C, they do everything. And then before their work is done at 5:30, there'll be some study. This, after all, is a typical Tuesday for Wolverhampton Wanderers under-13s. Because I was reading the intro going, why is he telling us all this stuff? We know footballers do this. And then I realised what it was he was talking about. And Kevin Foley is involved at the underage section.
It seems they're on their relief day from school, the Wolves under-13s, which suggests they get one day off a week from school to be full-time footballers and then do a few lessons in the evening.
It was like that John Kenny thing, the famous rousing speech, the blood-curdling speech before the match, which has the punchline, and next year when you're playing under 10, so it's from that great sort of genre.
Yeah, it's amazing, really. way they're being coached at that age already, under 13s. It seems Wolves have a grade 1 academy, so you have to spend a certain amount of years.
And they're quite unusual. They're one of the few clubs that has an academy at that level, which is really interesting. They're only one of 24 clubs in England and Wales with Category 1 status for their academy. The guidelines recommend 2.5 million is to be set aside to operate a top grade academy, and a minimum of 18 full-time staff are required.
Yeah, so really interesting stuff there from the newspaper review at the weekend from Cliona Foley and Declan Lynch talking with Joe. As I said, you can get that on your podcast. Now, Darren is back. He scuttled off around 2 minutes to 9 to do something to do with his day job or something, I can't remember. But anyway, let's start with Darren's tweet from yesterday. Trolley McTrollface, I believe, is the usual suspects. Very quiet today. This is on the back of a club from Longford beating a club from Dublin in the Club Football Championship. The perceived embarrassment of riches in resources and population couldn't prevent Kilmacud Crokes losing. In an amateur game, 15 v 15, a team that's hard-working, well-organised and takes their chances can achieve the improbable. Bravo, Mullinaghta.
Who are the usual suspects?
I don't think it'd be fair to name the usual
Ewan
suspect. I'm not going to confirm or deny
Paul Kimmage,
whether or not it's Ewan McKenna or Paul Kimmage, but it is
both.
This is not primetime, Owen. I did clarify that. It probably was a little bit more trolling than I intended. There was a nub of I suppose a sincere point that wasn't intended as a swipe at anyone. I do genuinely feel heartened by what Mullinaghta did. I thought it was brilliant. I think it's great for the game.
So patronising.
I know, it's amazing. No, with a straight face.
No, hold on.
I feel heartened by what the little did.
No, on every underdog story you feel heartened by. You really enjoy it. The point I was making is there's a lot of coverage and a lot of analysis nowadays which suggests that Dublin win because Dublin have lots of money and get the lion's share of the game's development grant and play their home games in Dublin, and that's all fair enough, and I do think that should be addressed, and any of the imbalances or interests that Dublin have that are unfair compared to other counties, it's long past the time something should be done about them. But at the same time, I wouldn't want a kid or even a junior player or an intermediate player to buy into this. I'll never win anything because other clubs out there have better resources than I do. Because I think that's a bit of a cop-out. I think, yes, Dublin have a number of unfair advantages. That should be, at this rate, rectified and acknowledged by the GAA, and they should do something with the way that the development grants are divvied out so that the rest of the country get a fairer share of the pie. But at the same time, I don't believe that the work that they do and the fact that they're probably the hardest working inter-county team maybe in the country is...
I mean, look at Tommy. He's just got his hands
so
on
well. It was going so well.
How are they harder working than anybody else, though?
It's not that they're harder working than anyone else, but the work...
You just say they're the hardest working team.
They have to make their own meals. That's how hard working they are.
If you let me finish. It's not prime time. I do feel, though, that the work rate isn't rewarded or isn't acknowledged as much as the financial benefits that they enjoy or the creature comforts they have from being in the capital city.
Probably truth in that.
That they don't get credit.
Yeah.
No, I think it's not that they don't get credit. It's that
hungry people who really want to achieve the best that they can. I think there is probably an element of truth in that. That we kind of do refer to the machine a little bit more than the what is actually powering the machine.
And to be honest,
maybe it's not.
Most of my point was taken from listening to Oisín Langan's post-match stuff. All of them touched on the fact, lads, we only have 25 people in our panel. Some of them play junior. We had no right to win this game. We shouldn't have even given Crokes a game, but we believed in ourselves. We knew that there was no barrier to us working harder than them on the day, and that would get us through. So it wasn't me being condescending at them. It was taken from their own words of how they achieved it, in that they knew if they went out there and worked harder than the man they were marking, and if everyone did that, they'd have a great chance of winning the game. They knew if they were organised and took their chances. This is their own words. This is the words of the manager, Graham, he said afterwards. And as well as that, the goal scorer, Gary Rogers, made the point as well that they had a belief that the resources thing and playing a club with 4,800 members compared to their 150 odd members wouldn't make a difference, because there was 15 of them against 15 opponents, and if they did their job, they would have a chance. And I do think that while the inter-county game, there's disparities there that make it hard to compare to the club game
Impossible.
Impossible. Yeah, it was probably a misguided and naive comparison, but I do think I would hate.
We're delighted with that. It wasn't misguided. It was not misguided. You totally intended it. And naive was like pretending you don't even know what was going to happen.
Would you say you're the victim here, Darren?
No, Owen. This is complete shit stirring at this stage. I came here to sincerely explain a tweet that
Can't kill a kidder.
Probably didn't come across as intended. And in fairness to Jamie Wall, he rightly called it out and said, look,
Piers Morgan levels of deliberately missing the point is what he said.
Yeah, he said that, which I thought was a bit harsh, but we had a conversation and he made his point and I agreed with an awful lot of what he said.
Back to this question.
And I think
a robust exchange of views.
And I think when I made my point, he felt that there was more to it than the initial maybe fish bait tweet suggested.
I think at club level, it's great that these things can happen, but what it does show up is that it's impossible for this to happen at inter-county level in any meaningful way.
Why?
Because there is no way ever that Mullinochta, i.e. a Carlow, a Longford, a Leitrim, can ever beat a Dublin in the championship. It is an absolute impossibility. It will never happen.
But Ger, this is the kind of terms we were talking about on Saturday night and Sunday morning.
Before the Crokes game?
Yeah.
Well, the thing about Crokes is that they don't have the pick. They have the players who come through their system. Dublin have the pick of everybody. It's like
every county has the pick of everyone in their county.
Except every county doesn't have 1 million people living in it.
Yeah, but
and that's why this can never happen at inter-county level. There's no way that a well-organised 15 Carlow footballers can ever beat a well-organised Dublin 15 footballers.
Well organised is the key. 15 years ago, they might have been able to. If this Turlock O'Brien team came along 15 years ago,
with the level of, so if you took the Dublin team from 15 years ago, I still think they'd probably beat this current Carlow team.
Probably would, but it would certainly be a contest.
I don't know if it would.
That Dublin team from 15 years ago.
That West Meath team.
2003, the Dublin team that goes to the All-Ireland final under Tommy Lyons. I mean, it'd be interesting. Ray Cosgrove semi-final, didn't go to the final.
2002
against Armagh.
So it's the same team in 03 basically, isn't it? Yeah. I think that this is a conversation about club, and this is a conversation about underdogs, and it's a conversation about 60 minutes of football in the bleak midwinter when the conditions are a leveller, when the lack of analysis is a possibility. But in the inter-county game, when the weather is good and the teams have been training together collectively for months and months and months, you have a pick of 1,000 qualified, conditioned in the system players versus a pick of 100, maybe 70 players.
Or is the club game just merely a throwback to what the inter-county game used to be before everything, or before chance was kind of removed from the equation by teams like Dublin, by teams, not just Dublin, by teams like Donegal? Certainly Jimmy Guinness tried to remove chance as much as possible as well. Whereas in the club game, that level of elitism just doesn't exist, and the chances for weird stuff to happen is much higher.
Yeah, Crokes don't have all the money that Dublin have. No. Crokes don't have the marketing power and the resources and the ability to raise cash. They can't go to a pool to go, look, we need money for this, this, this and this. They have to actually fund all of the underage stuff. And obviously Dublin have to fund underage things too, but the clubs actually technically look after that. So, and the GAA give them grants to help with that stuff. So the Dublin senior team can concentrate on just being the Dublin senior team. Crokes are a club, they're volunteers. Like, I mean, obviously most of the people involved with the senior team are volunteers too, but just,
we're not too far down this road though that the blueprint and the model isn't achievable with some cooperation from the people that dole out the cash. So, like
in other counties?
For Dublin. Like, Dublin have only been successful over the guts of a decade, maybe less. It was the blue plan, wherever it is, the blue wave there, it's behind your shoulder. It was that blueprint that probably changed things, and the fact that they got former players, they kept them in the system by getting them involved in development squads, bringing in Mossy Quinn from a commercial side of things. Very, very clever too, and I know other counties have tried to follow suit. But we're not too far down the road that you can't address the injustices and maybe the unfair treatment and benefits that Dublin have reaped, so that you could bring other teams, or at least give other teams the chance to try and get to that level. And I think it would be just fair to do so.
Give more money to everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's true. I think that's fair enough. I just, I do think that people in Dublin need to be a little bit careful, because if they win 7-8 in a row, everybody else is going to start going, there's no point in this.
Sure, that's not happening.
It totally is going to happen.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Like, you're actually saying the words, Dublin are going to win 7-8 All-Irelands in a row. It's mental. It's madness.
They're going to win 9 out of 10.
Like, it's crazy. They could have lost the semi-final this year had they have not... Like, that game could have turned on the penalty save.
Really?
Yeah, genuinely.
I don't think so. I think Dublin had another gear to go to that day.
Yeah. Dublin playing within themselves.
They're scraped, with the exception of this year's final, they've scraped through finals. I think the 3 previous finals, there's like a combined score of 4 points.
Yeah,
the idea that
that was the greatest Mayo team of all time, and one of the top 5 teams of all time.
It's probably the greatest Dublin team of all time.
But there's no sign of...
It's probably the greatest Gaelic football team of all time.
Yeah,
like, I do believe there's a certain element of they have advantages that should be addressed to stop them getting too dominant on the game because it's bad for the game. But at the same time, you have to think that there is an anomaly in the suggestion that Dublin are just a great generation of players. There's just probably the best team that will ever play for Dublin out there at the moment.
Except that Connolly comes out, Conor O'Callaghan comes in. The production line of the talent coming through
Often comes out, Brian Howard goes in.
Is so pronounced because the work going on at underage level from the money that was injected into the system means that players are getting better access to coaches, more contact hours, creating better players, creating a higher standard of competition in the games they're playing, creating better players to the point where there are hundreds of really good quality players who aren't anywhere near the senior inter-county team, which means the strength and depth is so pronounced that everything rises to a point where they are going to be the best team in the country forever as it stands now. And there will be occasional years where they lose games, potentially in semi-finals and finals, if an amazing Kerry team comes together, or if an amazing Mayo team somehow comes together, they might lose a game. But it will be 9 and 10 All-Irelands. And at that point, what is the rest of the country doing? Like, what keeps them interested in playing football?
There'd be a pointlessness if we ever got to a point where any team was winning that much. I really don't.
But we're on that path. Like, do you not see that we are on that path right now? 4 in a row is not going to be an anomaly. Like so they could lose, they will win. They could lose one, they'll win 4 in a row again. They might lose one, they'll win 4 in a row again. Like, we're just in that cycle now, and there's nothing that's going to stop that.
Well, I think some of the changes that the GAA have made have been. It's like if you get hit by a bus and you've broken your back and you've broken your neck and you've broken both your legs and you have a paper cut and you address the paper cut first. With the new rules, I think what they should do is look at structural and organisational change and look at making sure that other counties are given a chance to compete on a level playing field. And there is no way that the grants developments should be stagnant, in that if you get a certain amount in 2017, you get a similar amount in 2018, maybe a little bit less. It should be completely flipped in a way that whoever gets the lowest allocation in year X gets a much higher, close to the highest in year Y, so that you're actually divvying up the money in a meaningful way and giving everyone the chance to have some chance of success, or even chance of having the resources that can create success.
If it's controlled from Croke Park as opposed to by the local authorities who might know where the needs are, but who might not have the proficiency and the skill set to actually dole out the cash. Look, I think that's a fundamental issue that needs rebalanced. I also do feel that, like, Dublin playing every game in Croke Park is a massive advantage. An All-Ireland football final where Kerry were at home, where Mayo were at home sometime. Like, what the hell is wrong with this? Why can't we think about these things?
Well, I think Croke Park is where the All-Ireland final has to be played every single year.
Why?
Because it's got 82,000 seats.
So what?
That's
like, so some years you're going to have fewer people in an All-Ireland final, but it's going to be like the best atmosphere of all time.
Yeah, I actually agree with Ger, because I think
semi-finals maybe, not for the final.
Well, no, who cares? Like, change things.
Fly them over to Wembley then and play it there. You're not going to like.
No, because that's not a home venue.
Or like make sure the new Ravenhill is big enough, or put it in the Aviva.
Like, aren't getting into it.
The rest of the stadium is just too small for an All-Ireland final. It's simple as that.
Yeah, but the
30,000 people, 30,000 tickets for an All-Ireland.
Yeah, but it's not for the fans. The point is, it's the players' game. They are the key stakeholders in Gaelic senior inter-county football, and if Dublin keep getting to finals and they keep being in Croke Park, I'd absolutely not be adverse to the idea of...
Where would you play it?
You're going to have to move it to somewhere that's less than half the size.
Páirc Uí Chaoimh is the obvious suggestion.
If Cork are in it. Right. A reminder, OTBAM is live with Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. Good job, Darren, well done. You managed to reclaim your honour a little bit there.
Did I?
Yeah.
Until next time.
I do feel sorry for you.
Why?
You're a victim in all this.
He feels sorry for you because he's from Kerry and he's looking down on you. Until you do your 5 in a row, technically, You're on the
It
same
feels pretty
level
sweet,
there.
actually. I'm still savouring the minor 5 in a row, actually, from September. The sweet taste of five glories in a row.
Tonight on Off the Ball, Lewis Moody and how painkillers damaged his health. Kenny Cunningham in studio. Miguel Delaney on the Copa Libertadores final and how it could foreshadow other big games being moved around the world at the whim of the footballing bodies. And we just know that at the footballing bodies, at the centre of all that they want to do is the good of the game and spreading the gospel of football into the four corners of the earth, as opposed to, you know, enriching their association and keeping their sponsors happy. That's definitely not what's happening. That's all from us this morning on OTBAM. We're back tomorrow morning at 7:45 a.m. Good luck.
OTB
Thanks to Screwfix.ie.